Shit. You know what time it is? That's right. It's 7 a.m. in Australia, and you know what we call that in America? Time to get fucking lit. It's got to be go time for a happy hour, Night Attack style. How you doing, Justin Robert Young?
I think that's what they call it in Australia, too.
Well, I mean, that's what brings us together. That and being white imperialist conquering nations. That's the other thing that we have in common with them. Where we sent our criminals.
What have they conquered? What have they conquered? Shit.
The Aborigines. Tell that to the Aborigines, man. This is some dicey shit. By the way, that's John Rael joining us in there.
Yeah, all right. Let's steer away from that. Although I do feel like, we can just hashtag COVID if we ever get into too much hot water and just be like, hey, look, we're all under stress.
Yeah, man. Hot water, like the hot water that's killing the Great Barrier Reef. Am I right? We conquered them. I don't see how many species you got left.
That's it. One by one, we'll cover them all. These reefs. All these reefs. They think they own the place, huh? Oh, they're so great. The Great Barrier Reef.
All these travelers, these people, they're willing to cross the entire globe and spend thousands of dollars just to swim around in the Great Barrier Reef. You know what we call them? Reefer addicts. And it's a real problem, people. I think they have reefer madness.
I think more people have suffered from this reefer madness than the other kind.
Than the traditional one.
Like the cost, the injuries, we went down in my scuba equipment, and
and then they get really upset, man.
Brain.
They get reefer madness.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's a local joke that everybody tells. Like you're on a tour.
Well, no. But that would be, I don't know. Do Australians get the reefer madness joke? Because that was an American propaganda film, but maybe it's become world famous.
I gotta feel like I still have never watched that movie, but I know it as a meme and an idea that everyone talks about. So
I feel safe in thinking they knew it just because it was filmed. We got to the silver screen first, therefore everybody knows our culture.
Yeah, whether you saw it or not, like, okay, here's the test. If they are familiar with train pulls into station, I'm going to guess they're also familiar with Reefer Madness.
I mean, but that was the first movie.
I know.
This is just a thing that we did later. All right. Do we know any Australians that we could call right now at 7 o'clock in the morning? We need to get.
As a matter of fact, here, we're going to open up the Skype lines. Hit us up, NSFW show. I don't know what it's going to do to our live feed.
I don't know. I don't think that's going to work because we are.
Well, you're on the OPS, so.
They will not be able to hear me, I don't think.
That's fine, but we can hear them at least. Hey, look, man, this is what happy hour is about. It's getting experimental. It's about getting trashed at 7 in the morning, Australia time. And then
is
coming
it
on.
actually 7 in the morning, or did you just make that up?
I received an email saying, I want you to know that happy hour is the best 7 in the morning part of my day.
All right. And he was Australian.
Sincerely, also, I'm a reefer addict. I'm going to go swim and surf on the Great Barrier Reef.
This wasn't some Kiwi pretending to be Australian?
Also, that's not a knife. That's the other thing. That's how I knew for sure.
All right, here. I'm going to tweet this out. Real quick.
All right.
We can see. Hey, are you Australian?
Actually, just leave it at that. And then I will tweet out, no, but seriously, you could tell us. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Are you Australian?
All right, here we go. I'm just going to say, hey, are you in Australia right now? Question mark. There we go. Boom.
Also,
that'll lure them out. You can't really go direct with these Aussies.
They get
aggressive. You
aggressive.
got to kind of come in from the side. Yeah. You can't. You got to finesse them a little bit.
Well, they get upset. They have their own word when somebody's too aggressive. They call them bossies. They're like, man, I thought, mate, I thought you were an Aussie. Seems like you're more of a bossy.
That sounds like a very typical Australian response.
Right. And then, but then weirdly, they would add the word broden to the end of it for no reason. And that's the part I don't understand.
And usually something sexist and racist, but that's neither here nor there.
I punched a sheep. Come at me, quick, Kiwi.
I don't even know. I don't even know what you said. Your Australian accent is getting so good. I could not understand a word you literally just said.
I sort of mashed up the idea of Australian being rude frat bros. That was a meme that was baked into Flight of the Conchords, but mixed it with the Broden voice from our friends Auntie Donna, who I saw on the front page of /r/funny. They got a new thing. Should we check it out?
Sure.
Should we check out a dick? Let me do this. Reddit.com. In the meantime, John Rael, what is the biggest, most exciting thing that is happening in your life right now?
I just got 48 terabytes sitting in my office waiting for me. I got a brand new disk station with 4 12 terabyte drives.
Now, why? I guess really, I started that question as if there was going to be more to it, but there isn't. It's why?
I'm one of those filmmaker people. You've met me. And,
Yes.
And I have a lot of stuff that I've filmed, and it is spread out over like half a dozen hard drives that have been duplicated. So I have like a dozen hard drives in my life, and I'm just going to finally condense them all into one big NAS station. And that way I can feel productive and organized and start making my own stuff again.
So is this a little bit like having your own apartment where
Yes.
you don't want to take your stuff that you know is your stuff, and you know you could probably get away with storing it on company property for a little bit, but eventually somebody somewhere is going to say, yo, why is all these old Nintendo games here?
And if you haven't noticed, I have been storing it on our property. I have 8 terabytes taken up right now with John's stuff on our
okay.
station, but that'll be clean like momentarily, Brian.
Well, now I'm nothing but excited about this now. This is good news for everyone.
Right.
I found out that there was a problem and that it's already fixed. That's the best way to find out about problems.
It's a folder in there. It says John stuff, capital letters, temporary, and it's been there for 6 months. So.
Oh, man. How long do you think, and in what situation, is the longest you could get away with? I wrote the word temporary on it before everybody turns on you.
Well, when it comes to something like tech, I think you could get away for at least a year. If you temporary.
I've definitely published files that had the word temp 5, latest temp, do not release, final. like saying the word temporary only gets you so far is I guess my point.
That is fair. That is true. Especially with tech, man. Like we have like nuclear facilities that are still running on floppies. I'm sure that was a temp solution at one point.
Well, and I mean the space shuttle, rest in peace, was running on essentially an Apple II minus.
Damn.
Yeah, that's crazy.
NASA.temp/temp.
What about you, Justin? Are you one of those people that just keeps adding more words to every revision of a audio file as you edit it?
No, I like the audio files. Because I'm always pushing them out to MP3 so I can listen to them. Like when I was doing Raise the Dead, I would push out a version to then like go for a walk and listen to. So there's certainly plenty of version numbers of a various episode, but not the file itself.
Oh, here it is. I was mistaken. It was not /r/funny. It was them on the front page of /r/videos. I saw that beautiful face of Zach. The video is titled "Filling Up on Cheese Before Dinner." Number 36 trendingest video on all of YouTube right now.
Goddamn.
Good friends of the show.
Boys, the main train's on its way. In the meantime, here's some cheese. Don't fill up on cheese. Boys, that main's not far off. Get bloody ready, all right?
I can't.
Can't what?
Eat dinner. I filled up on cheese.
Ate all the cheese, did you?
Yeah, mate. I don't know. I was feeling hungry. Now I'm all filled up.
Did you have the brie?
Yeah, a little brie, mate.
Good. Did you have the Mersey Valley Ploughman's cheddar cheese? Yeah, mate. They're craft singles too.
Craft
It's
singles?
a joke. I think I remember saying don't fill up on cheese. Maybe I didn't say it. Maybe I'm the one going crazy.
You left it all out, Nick, and I just...
The main course not good enough for you, mate. Not good enough.
It's me, mate. I'll fill up on it. Just a second.
What about you, mate? It's all right, mate. Tell me, mate. Tell me. I just want you to tell me, mate. You'll feel better. You been in the movies lately? Captain Marvel's good. Who plays her? Larson. Someone Larson. What's her name? Brie. Yeah, that's right. Brie Larson. Yeah, damn it. That's a kind of cheese.
Of any cheese.
You're hungry, boy.
I reckon I've got room for a main meal.
Not room for a mate. Yeah, that's good. Did you get stuck into that brie, mate? Oh, are you hungry, mate?
Didn't say anything.
You been talking to the cops, mate? What do we do now, boys? What do we do now?
I have an idea.
How's your meal?
Great. I'm so happy I didn't fill up on cheese.
Yeah.
Just they're so brilliant at that one note tonal joke where it's like all of that boils down to that sinister vibe, even though one joke they were told not to fill up on cheese and then they did.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the heightening of such a simple premise to like it's like a thing that we've seen a lot of in our like Breaking Bad, Sopranos, Narcos kind of world, right? Of the, a moment where the unstable leader is testing for loyalty, but just brilliant. I mean, they
really committed to the silences. Just they let it hang.
Well, that's just an example of just that they're just all such great actors.
Not only in the moment, but the sound design, the stuff in the background,
The camera zoom ins back. Yeah.
I mean, it's all a storytelling flex, and it's almost part of the wonderful gift that they are. And this could be misinterpreted. I mean this only as a compliment. Like, to waste all of that on a YouTube comedy video is so delightful and wonderful.
Frustrated filmmakers, man. I love it.
It's great. It's great.
Okay, all right. Hold on. We have one on the line.
Oh, an
Apparently
Australian?
A Rob White is watching the Happy Hour stream right now.
Okay.
So Rob, we want you to go in the chat and tell us whether or not you know what reefer madness is. Just yes or no, no wrong answers. We just want you to know, do you know what reefer madness is?
Bonus, you don't even have to be right. There's no cash reward. Wait, like if you feel like you know what reefer madness is, that counts.
Yeah. And nobody in the chat spoil this. No, nobody that we need. This is a science experiment. We're doing a scientific thing right now.
This is dank
This is how
science.
Science do it. This is Dank Science, a new show we're piloting where Brian and I are dank as hell. We smell like peat moss, and we have rich aromas of swamps. But then we also do science. So this is the science part about that.
What is this gentleman's name?
Rob White.
Rob White. And if he doesn't know what it is, can he please describe what he thinks it might be?
Oh my God! Here it is.
Gimme.
He says he's in the chat.
Okay.
He says this is Rob White right here.
Yep.
Robbie Dubs.
Yep.
In Twitch chat. Rob, he says he does. He does know what reefer madness is.
All right.
Well,
Okay.
then do us a favor. big Rob White. Why don't you go ahead and describe what reefer madness
Fast you
is?
turned. It's like you just started off by saying don't fill up on cheese, and now
This is science, Brian. This is how science works. I'm sorry. We can't all be Dr. Oz flitting from flower to flower. We have to actually use science.
I thought I knew what Reef of Madness was. I guess I didn't. I didn't know what Reef of Madness is.
You never done a double-blind study before?
Yeah, come on. All right, so he says that they know that U.S. culture has subsumed Australian culture to a disturbing degree.
You're welcome.
A disturbing degree.
Rob, you're welcome.
All right, now do you know what train pulls into station is?
What is gonna? How far back can we go with anything, any content that eventually shows up as a YouTube video with the words upscaled 60 frames per second 4K? Like, can we get there with like buffalo paintings upscaled 60 frames per second 4K? Or a penny arcade striptease upscaled 45. I guess why not? I mean, if it exists.
I mean, I think it would
That
certainly
we
get
can make any
passed
resolution
around.
or frame speed.
Yeah.
Like it would certainly get passed around, I would think, right? I think that's more of just an understanding of like, hey, let's make it tolerable to watch what people in the past looked at. / for like, I saw one that was like a trolley going down Market Street in San Francisco. It's like, oh,
That's a good
what
one.
looks
Actually,
the same, what doesn't look.
I watched that original one at its lowest fidelity version when it hit the internets a few years ago and liked it for what it was, even at the low res stuff. But like at the higher res, it does, man. It feels like you teleported into the telenovela version of that. Have you seen this?
Yeah, and it's so weird though, especially if they actually stick to 24 frames, which they should. By God, I don't care who I'm talking to. If you watch something like The Honeymooners or like Charlie Chaplin, it looks better than, of course, TV that came out like 20, 30 years ago. Because there was like this 20, 30 year period where all TV was recorded to video, and it's just forever garbage.
I don't think it will be forever garbage. Yes, there's a lot of missing information in there, but I think that just like anything else, you'll be able to, there's enough information there that a computer is going to be able to say, okay, a lot of noise, let's reduce the noise. In general, this many pixels, this is probably what the pores look like between these pixels. And then all of a sudden you're able to upsample it to anything.
Okay.
I think it'll, I think that anybody under the age of 7 is going to grow up in a world with the expectation that anything can be upscaled to essentially perfect quality, possibly even 3D-ified. Because there's no reason, looking at this trip down Market Street video right now from 1906, there's enough information there for us to go ahead and create the 3D models and create the landscape. And you won't be able to go around every corner, but even then you can go around all the corners. And then they'll just, have these procedurally generated computer conversations that are seeded by, actual overheard wax tubes from that time.
So you think there's going to come a time where we can upscale Roseanne?
Yeah.
I mean,
Nice.
if we can upscale, anything, then AI is something that's going to be able to like successfully model. Like it's going to mean creating information, but the AI has been pretty good about doing that. And the more we train it, the more it's likely to be able to figure it out.
I'm honestly just waiting for my AI editor assistant, like the guy who will sync up all the timelines and give me like a little rough fatty cut. And then I'm like, oh, good job, AI. I'll take it from here.
Oh my God. I'll bet A-Roll AI bot is seconds away because it's not that hard. Like, take a bunch of you can create different personalities. You can have Lazy Ed as one of your personalities. Lazy Ed algorithm takes everything, puts it in there. He synchronizes all the audios, doesn't necessarily adjust any for quality. He always assumes the last take is the best one, and then just chops together an A-roll for you. And then you can have Artiste one, where he actually bothers to run what might be the best take against pacing and intensity, and is able to recognize laughter and the sound of a smile in a voice and know that that's the better of the two takes or whatever. That technology has to already exist. It's just that nobody's selling that right now, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it seems like Adobe should be coming out with that, but they haven't.
I mean, they probably already have it and keeping it secretive from us. I mean, they saw what a debacle it was when they showed that all conversations can be called fake now.
Oh.
That's not even available to us yet.
No? Still not, huh? Justin, are
Wait,
we
what's
losing
not
you?
available? I don't even know what the fuck you guys are talking about.
We've been having a conversation about upscaling and the ability for Adobe to create AI things that replace the job of humans, and we were referencing specifically the fact that Adobe did a fairly famous demo in which they had people being quoted as saying things that they didn't actually say, because you could just all of a sudden introduce the idea that something could be faked, and we were fearfully discussing whether or not that was available to everybody right now.
Justin, are you not a video editor?
Not particularly. I mean,
Oh.
like I've done it in the past, and I've done basic like chopping stuff up recently, but nothing, I haven't opened Final Cut in, probably a decade.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm so in the rabbit hole where every single associate I know is basically doing some form of editing.
No. I mean, primarily, I've done. What the hell is that?
Oh, we're adding a mic for a surprise superstar,
Yeah, Bonnie,
gotcha.
the invisible wife, just showed up.
and she put on makeup, which doesn't help her invisibility, but
Yeah, no, it's pretty much just Adobe Audition. That's been the most that I've edited in recently.
all right.
So, where are you at in terms of, do weekends still exist for any of us?
Well, Fridays are still in existence because I get to do my walk. I get to do a little cigar walk from Piedmont to Jack London Square. I look forward to it. I enjoy it. So that's what I'm going to do right after this. It's going to be a good time.
I don't think I've done weekends like lived a weekend life in over a decade.
Yeah, I guess my weekends tend to be days where I still have stuff to do, but I also know that I could fudge on them. And usually weekends are times where there are scheduled shoots and we have to do the thing, and the other thing.
Yeah.
And so as a result, like if I could point to a weekend, it would be like Wednesday afternoons or Thursday mornings usually.
Okay.
Well, I got incoming news.
Uh-oh.
School is at home for the rest of the year.
Yay.
Now, hold on. The rest of the school year or the rest of 2020?
Well, the rest of oh yeah, that's important. So the rest of the school year, this school year.
I mean, we all kind of knew that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody was sort of winking at each other when they said, a long spring break.
Well, here's some of the very practical things that they had to come up with. Is one, what to do with teachers because they're not being assessed, and so they had to, as a state, decide that they're not going to grade teachers this year. So that's a thing. Also, the kids.
All right, hold
are
on.
pass
Time
or
out.
fail.
Time out. I know what kids do when there is no grade. What do we think teachers do when there is no grade for
Finish
teachers?
that novel finally.
Yeah, no, I'm certain, right?
By the way, that's my whole understanding of a teacher. Is there somebody trying to be a writer? I don't know what a teacher is.
I don't know, but my Callie's teacher shows up, and she is just doing her best. Bless her heart, So, I actually haven't been able to get to know her very well over the year, which is unusual. Most of the teachers I've gotten to know pretty well, and So Callie's the first grader, but this one surprises me, like getting to see her on how much heart she puts into her videos and talking with the kids and the way she's showing up every morning and looks like really tired, but she's on video for them. And I'm just like, she's so sweet. And so she's really been dialed in.
See, now we know why Bonnie showed up wearing makeup. Is she was inspired. She's like, well, she's showing up.
She is showing up. And then Josie had to make a spreadsheet because all of her 7 teachers are doing things differently. So she doesn't know where or who or what or when things are supposed to be turned in. But one thing I liked is that they decided everything's due on Sundays in the evening so that kids, if they need the computer, they're not competing with their parents when their parents need the computer for work. So, some of their like online polling figured out that, hey, a lot of families share one computer. So, that's helpful for them. The other thing is kids are pass fail. So,
I mean, they always have been.
Right. Well, not really. Like
They just finally have realized the truth about themselves.
yeah. Well, up until I think Josie's group. So she's middle school, and that group gets pass fail, and I think people above that are still working on grade levels and jockeying and stuff like that.
I remember when I was in elementary school, I was such a bad student. My teachers would give me like hypothetical grades, like these are what we think you could be at if you weren't actually failing and we weren't desperate to just move you along.
Oh my God, you were one of those kids? Oh my
I
God.
didn't believe in taking my work home.
Well, that's practical.
Yeah.
Now you live at work.
Right.
So, anyways, everything's fine, except that their new teacher is going to instigate office hours because I literally am bombarded with mom all day long. And I'm just like, no, you can do that to me between these hours and these hours, morning hours and afternoon hours. And that's it.
So sorry, how is her teacher creating office hours fixing that for you?
No, I'm fixing that. I'm sorry. I'm the teacher at
Bonnie's
home.
creating office hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm
like you're
instigating.
scheduling your kids.
Right. Like
I love it.
I'm like, look, guys, if you have a question for me, it has to be between this and this. And
This doesn't look like Josie's time. I don't know why you're still talking.
yeah, that's exactly it. We have to figure something out.
We are starting to see schedules slip. Like there was a time that I cared whether or not any of my kids were still awake past 11 or 12 at night on a weekday, but instead, like all of a sudden, we're the ones. Penny is the killjoy at 12 o'clock, saying, "Guys, I'm sorry, I'm too tired. I don't want to watch another Good Place. I'm going to bed."
Yeah,
and we're all like, "No, boo, killjoy, you suck."
Aw. I got some new.
I mean,
oh, go for it.
no. Go ahead.
Justin, what's happening?
What do you
seem
mean?
distracted today. Am I wrong?
Oh, no. I was just listening to the story.
Mhm.
Is this a different kind of happy hour we're experiencing right now?
I don't know exactly what's going on, but it does look like you're reading some important ticker tapes off screen that we're doing our best to cover.
No,
for.
I was trying to upload. No. I was waiting for you guys. I was uploading a podcast while you guys were talking.
Oh, got it. Okay, all right.
I'll admit I had a little THC earlier.
Yeah,
I've been trying to do the microdose thing.
yeah.
Because if I feel THC, I'm gone. My day's ruined. It's the worst. But if I have like just a little like 2.5 grams, I'm like,
Is it the THC or the CBD? I thought the CBD was supposed to be the one that kept you
CBD
chill.
hasn't been doing anything for me, so I've moved on. I'm on to the THC.
Okay.
And with just a little hint of it, it's like by the end of the evening, I'm like, I can just go to sleep now. This is nice.
Yeah, that's
I don't know, but I've never really tried a microdose. I feel like that would be trying to bring one beer to a party.
I mean, I guess that would be microdosing.
I mean, yeah.
I wonder how many alcoholics are like, I'm practicing microdosing throughout the day, having just
Well, did you
a
guys
third
ever
of a
see
Miller Lite at all times.
Do you guys ever see that Mitchell and Webb sketch, the inebriati? Every man is at his best at 1.5 beers.
Actually, I think that's totally true.
And if you hit that second beer all the way, your day's done.
Yes, that is correct. There is a cliff, and once you cross that cliff, you get nothing done. But you start to move very quickly right before that cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be my problem with the microdosing. You know, I don't know. Although maybe I've thought about it a lot. I've thought about maybe like that would like just do wonders for relieving the kind of like underlying anxiety of the day, that like you start to work on something and then you look at the clock and you realize that you don't have as much time as you thought, and it doesn't really affect your ability to work for the next hour, but it gets in your head and maybe degrades your performance. But then again, I'm also very distracted already. Like there is probably about an hour of every day that is lost as I am loading something, uploading something, opening another website, and it is taking a second to load, and then I go to something else so I can fill that time. That is usually Twitter, and it usually takes at least 3 to 5 to 15 minutes for me to pull my head out of it. And I don't think that would be helped by microdosing.
Maybe Justin needs a free write.
Have you, oh man, you want to have a battle royale? We can have John and Bonnie talk about the benefits and the downsides of a free write, typewriter, word processor. Where are you at on Twitter right now? Is it fun? And are you, or you know what? Let me use my I statements. I love what Twitter represents. I love what Twitter makes possible. I love the things that can happen from Twitter. I am increasingly afraid of the fact that it's nothing but liability incarnate at all times. The more successful you become, the less you should be involved with Twitter, which is a real bummer when you've built your career on speaking frankly on Twitter and then suddenly realize that every word you say on Twitter is nothing but liability waiting to attack you in a future date. And it bums me out because it leaves me feeling isolated and alone. Have you felt any of that? Because I get the impression from your tweets that you are always doing the one-man show on Twitter and that you genuinely give two shits about who does and doesn't understand how you meant things. And how, number one, am I reading that right? Number two, what's it like over there? Because it sounds rad.
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably moderate. I delete more things before I hit send than I probably did back in the day. But in general, I don't necessarily think that there's a lot that's off limits, specifically in the political realm. You know, I feel like my blade is sharp enough from doing the show that I feel confident backing up anything that I say. And my character is as such that, like, if I'm hilariously wrong on something, I can just say, like, look at me, the idiot. But in general, yeah, I mean, I haven't really thought, like, my biggest problems with Twitter are not my own liability. My biggest problems with Twitter are that I sometimes hate reading Twitter. I feel like reading Twitter becomes bad for me, not necessarily my contribution to it. I still find that fairly fun.
Yeah, it's so, the bummer with Twitter is that for me, there's no room for nuance and there's no backsies to explain stuff. There was some like rapid fire AMA thing that I love doing, just honestly responding to stuff. And one of the questions mixed in with, you know, who's your favorite Power Ranger, this guy or this guy in a fight or whatever. Somebody threw something to the tune of, and all people should receive a minimum wage that is a livable wage. And I hated the very question, so I responded with some version of, none of those words mean anything and they're stupid. By which I meant, a livable wage is defined by a standard of living that is ever shifting and that you define yourself.
Yeah. See, this is where we're already, like, if I were to do Twitter reform school, like, I would have wrapped your knuckles with my ruler. Like, from the moment that you started thinking that you could have that conversation on Twitter.
But simultaneously, those are exactly the type of genuine conversations that I like to have, because
yes, you want to have a conversation about that,
right?
You do not want to have that conversation. You do not want to have that conversation because that is a bad faith conversation with somebody who is not there to have a conversation. They're there to throw a thing into your party, and you can either react to it like he threw a thing into your party, or you can react as if he's actually a wandering philosopher who has now spouted his newest bon mot, and now you can invite him into your salon so you might have a thoughtful discourse. Like, that's not what's happening. And ultimately, either your problems with Twitter are between your ears. You need to figure out exactly what your relationship with Twitter is and stop being frustrated by the fact that it's something that it isn't. Like, and whether or not it ever was is a conversation to go forward, but it's definitely not that now. And, what I've done with stuff like that is whenever anybody gets particularly mean, number one, I do the meanest thing I possibly could think of back to them.
Send them pictures of an animated dancing puppy.
Like their tweet and not respond. So they know I've read it. They know that I have acknowledged them, but I will not give them what they really want, which is any kind of interaction at all. I just take their bad faith gesture as a bad faith gesture, and that's the end of that.
That's the bummer, is because I genuinely think they were making a good faith gesture. It's just that, the very nature, the same thing that makes Twitter wonderful makes it impossible to have the conversation. How do you express the idea that a minimum wage is a bunch of people who are not you dictating how much you should be allowed to make? And how do you follow that up by saying that number, but a living wage income is something that can only be decided by you? And so to say, a minimum wage should be a living wage. It's how do you express the inherent insanity of the nonsensicalness of that question? You don't do it. You don't do it. You don't respond. That's the answer.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the answer. The answer is this is not the platform for that discussion, and it might never have been. You just want it to be. You wish it could be.
I don't know if this helps, but my perspective is always, I'm not a big deal on any level, but they certainly know enough to find my email, to find my Facebook, to find other avenues to contact me to have a conversation. So, Brian, there's like 1,000 ways to get a hold of you.
That is, yes. And also, everybody thinks it's a secret, but it is not a secret. And you're 100% right. That is the ultimate. That is like if something feels too heavy, then just say, wow, this sounds like a heavier conversation that belongs on Twitter. Here's my email address. Looking forward to it.
Here's the other thing that I believe in, which is that Twitter's a bulletin board. People are posting their opinions on there all the time. You can find any number of opinions. Many times what that guy is going to say and what you took it as is, please have a dialogue with me about this. Whereas what I take that as that's a hell of an opinion. Good for you for saying it. Because that's to me what that expression means. To me, they just want to yell it. They yelled it. I heard it. Cool. I'm not here to tell you. I'm not the arbiter of what is right and wrong. You didn't ask me my opinion. You didn't say, hey, why do you not think that everybody should be paid a living wage? If that was a direct question, then I could say, well, it really depends on what you mean by living wage. But I see your point. That would be the way that I would respond to that.
So
yes.
I feel like the what they're doing is basically throwing out their instead of wearing clothes, because you don't really see people wearing clothes on Twitter, they're like basically walking into the party goth as hell or punk rock or the
you don't see any of the tribal trappings that in a real life situation you would immediately at least have a hint of whether they're red state, blue state, wealthy, poor.
Yeah. And so it's almost like tribalism at that point, in which case when somebody comes in with all the piercings and all this stuff, then it's not like they're asking for your opinion on all of that. They're just throwing out, hey, this is what I'm about here,
And you can yell at them and challenge them like, why are you doing this? You're wearing crazy clothes. You're never going to get a job if you dress like that, right? Or you can just accept that they dress the way that they dress and then have another conversation.
I think Bonnie's point is that Twitter obfuscates that. Like in real life, you can see somebody walking up with a bunch of carabiners in their ears, bunch of tattoos on their faces, being over the age of 40, wearing a Nirvana t-shirt, and you instantly know what your common ground is, and you instantly know all the things that you can agree and have a really interesting conversation with for them. But the only way to have that experience on Twitter involves you going back, looking through their previous tweets and mostly seeing things that they're angry about, and then and having to guess at what things you probably have commonalities on. And I wonder if there's not going to be a place where there's like an advisor bot that just says, 70% chance you're going to love this guy. Do yourself a favor, stick to these topics. Why don't you bring up Nintendo? Have a good one. And I would love that.
Well, but it really depends on. Yeah, it really depends on what you want out of it, though. Yeah. Like, do you want to have these conversations, and how long do you want to have them? Because for me, I view it as like I am a program. I'm the guy you follow program, and you can either type into the terminal whatever you want, but I'm not going to be for you smart enough to fill in what it is that I really want to have a conversation about, or how to egg me in to a conversation. If you want to have a conversation with me, you can be respectful and you can actually ask me a question as opposed to shouting your opinion at me. I'm not going to respond. If somebody walked up to me in the world and said, Bernie Sanders is the best, I would be like, that dude loves Bernie Sanders. Not like, I don't know, have you considered his electability? And he really did have problems with white people with a college degree, specifically women. Like, so either you ask me, hey, do you think Bernie Sanders is viable? And in that case, I'll give you my opinion on whether or not it is, or you don't get a response. And if you're mean, I'll like your tweet and never respond to you.
No.
I guess what I would love is somebody could come up and say, Bernie Sanders should be president. And then, and instead, I'll see those words, but I just want somebody else to say, hey, if you want to, you could talk about him, Bernie Sanders. Do you know that this person grew up in the Bay Area and loves National Public Radio? I calculate a 90% chance that they're familiar with the comedy troupe Duck's Breath Mystery Theater, who you love very deeply in 7th grade, and you could probably have a fantastic conversation about that. Like that, I want that so bad to find that commonality.
Are you too old for Twitter and you need to do Facebook now? Because basically that's Facebook. So you get all your little groups and you get your things that you have.
Facebook
and also if you had that, don't you think you'd be interacting with fucking cooler people as opposed to the random guy that yells at you on Twitter? You'd be having a conversation with your heroes that you meet either through looking at their artwork that you don't have a connection with, or one of the million people that follow you that are really cool. If you could have that insight, you would train it on targets larger than the guy who just screams his opinion and doesn't have enough respect for you to actually even engage in a conversation.
That's where we bump into the and this is nothing but pure ego on my part. This weird belief that I can handle talking to anybody and that I'm better because I respond to every single person ever, always. And it's only in the last couple of years that I've finally given up that illusion when it comes to email, and I've begun to give up that illusion when it comes to Twitter or whatever. But I want to believe that I can have a conversation with anyone who wants to have a conversation with me, but I just got to figure out, like, lately, and we've talked about this because I engage very, very heavily on all of the YouTube comments, and often most of the best conversations begin with me saying, yeah, you don't mean that. You're great. Come on. And then they respond with, something like, well, I mean, I was just upset. Don't you think? And I'm like, hey, who's having a real conversation now? You're a fan and you didn't know it. I want to automate the parts that get us to there and not have to eat all the garbage in between.
I mean, I think that's, why don't you do that? Like, why don't you say, why don't you have a version of, like, hey, is there a question in there? Or like you just, do something to try to get that out, as opposed to, I mean, like, why don't, it seems like what your initial instinct on Twitter, as opposed to or YouTube rather, is to not crack that shell and get at the actual conversation, but rather to respond to the shell.
No, you're mistaking. On Twitter, specifically, there are times where there's a 3-hour flight, and I announce I will answer every single thing anyone asks me immediately right now.
Yeah.
And in those situations, yes, I'm not handling that back and forth rapid fire discussion in the same way that I handle it. If the advice is to in those situations handle it the way I do YouTube comments, I will get exactly 4 replies written on the 3-hour flights, and that'll be the beginning and the end of it.
Yeah, I don't mean necessarily to do the exact same thing, but find a Twitter specific version of what you do on, just to apply your general discipline, which is that everybody who yells at you is probably a fan because they were there to begin with and they cared to engage. It's just that they have a shitty way of doing it initially, and maybe having a Twitter version of that theory.
Oh, that's interesting. Do you think? And maybe I'm confused on this. I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, but I perceive that YouTube comments are far, far less political than Twitter these days. And I weirdly have a lot more.
Wait, which platform?
YouTube comments. I read
YouTube comments.
Yes.
Okay.
So both on YouTube comments and on Twitter, people are ostensibly talking either to me or a version of me or a version of the show. The YouTube comments appear to be less prone to randomly try to cast everything in a red state, blue state, political. Everything's going to go to crap if Cheeto Man gets reelected.
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, I think that in general, there are parts of YouTube for which you can live forever and never see politics. I don't know if that land exists on Twitter. Like it is so permeated with politics that, like, I don't know, even if you curated all your lists, like eventually the post that only does picture or, GIFs of birds falling down will say like, please vote, get fucking Trump out of office. Like everybody eventually touches on politics in a way that, if you don't mention politics in your videos and you don't indulge in that, then eventually you're going to find a community that's only there for the thing that you are talking about.
Like, I think we managed on our YouTube video where we talked about the actual buying of an election, an actual highly political story and how it worked. I think that there was a little bit, maybe 10 to 15% of the comments were something Trump, something Democrats have always been. But by and large, everything was fairly civilized discourse. And I don't feel like anything close to that would have been what showed up on the Twitter side of things.
Yeah, I don't know. And I think that was a fairly academic look at a historical moment, and that tends to bore people and make people
also you guys
not want to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, but like so here's what's funny is when that same story came out in the form of the podcast, I did a tweet storm of, I don't know, 6 or 7 tweets in a row where I pointed out some of the awesome counterintuitive things that Justin comes up with as a way to seduce people into listening to Raise the Dead, most of which were covered, or if not specifically, then close to that on the YouTube video. But on the YouTube video, they could hear all of that and say, those are 7 aha moments that very much surprised me. Twitter couldn't handle that. Everyone was a, who wants to fight? Here's another thing to fight about moment, and which was very weird for me.
Well, and again, you can't tell like a full narrative in Twitter.
Oh, but I want to.
No, you can't. You can't tell a full narrative in Twitter. Because
it's not an opinion. Narrative
well, hold on, wait a minute.
Narrative.
No. Let me actually amend that. Full narratives are always told on Twitter, but they are done in the brain of the of the consumer. Like, you are always telling a full thing. You what you write is always the subject. They just always get to fill in the predicate, right? And so, and it's even friends. Willie Dills, will periodically at night just pepper me with these like things that I can only guess are because I read as Trump sympathetic to him, and that's fine, right? Like that, everybody. I assume that there's people who probably read me as Trump sympathetic. I assume that there's people who read me as very. I mean, I know based on my feedback, there's many people who read me as fucking too cynical about Trump. But what is there to be proven is that it doesn't matter how pure of a message I write. It doesn't matter what my true heart is. It doesn't even matter that I've had multiple conversations with Willie. Like it matters that your brain is always filling stuff in on Twitter. You fill in the context. It is a very deeply personal experience to you, which is probably the reason why it's as addictive as heroin.
Yeah. Hey, how many years ago was Big Diz? Was that this week?
Man, I don't know, but I was certainly in love with all the photos that people were posting of Big Diz last night, and the shot of me, you, and Bryce was just man, what a golden moment in the sun. If all of society indeed does fall apart because of Plague World and the subsequent depression, then at least I will have those moments of true joy at Big Diz. But
define Big Diz.
Big Diz was there was a conference called A-Move, and we did Night Attack. We did some panel discussions. We had an awful lot of the Diamond Club show up, and just so happened to be in Orlando, Florida. Happened to have a lot of friends and family and fans who work at that incredible park system. Somehow we got 20 to 30 of us assholes. Almost everybody got somebody to cover for them to get in. And then all of them self-organized, figured out all of the shortest lines and all of the backstage everythings. We did 4 parks in one day.
Damn. 2.
What?
We did 2, right? We only did Epcot and Magic Kingdom.
Oh, I'm thinking about the time I went with CJ. Oh, we did. Because I know at some point we did all 4.
We did a big loop in Epcot, and
that's right. It ended with the Epcot 5K, which was what we described the monorail getting in, and Justin and I knowing.
Hold on. That was the end. This is the progression. We do a big loop around Epcot, amazing, but we are a problem. We are a mob at this point.
We are a jolly bunch.
We are a jolly bunch. We decide we're going to Magic Kingdom. We're doing as many Magic Kingdom things as we could. We are not but maybe 10 feet where we're chanting and clapping and singing, and somebody from Disney comes up to us and is like, "Hi, friends, what are you guys looking to do?" And we're like, "Go on rides." And they're like, "Cool, let's get you to the front of all these rides until you get tuckered out and get the hell out of Magic Kingdom."
Exactly
And
what it was.
That's what happened.
I believe it began when we finally realized a lifelong dream, which was to politicize the Hall of Presidents, where we
Yes.
went, where we all, before we went into the Hall of Presidents, we all picked our one favorite president that we were going to, because they spend 45 minutes just giving the name of every president. And it's like, look, everyone pick your own favorite, cheer for him. But there's one that we all hate. Was it Millard Fillmore?
Yeah, we picked one where we all booed.
And what's funny
and
is
that-
and we all spread out. And so what happens is people think it's a thing.
Yeah.
And then they join in, even though they're not in on the joke. They're all like,
so by the time you get to the modern presidents, by the time you get to the like Bush and Clinton and Obama and everything, now everybody is like, woo, woo! They're all red team, blue team. But yeah, that was great. The mine train was new, and that had a pretty sizable line on it, and we got through that in about 15 minutes. But it all built up to the Epcot 5K. Sorry to cut you off.
no.
Brian. This will be how we go on
Yeah,
today.
we did a lap around the world, drank all the booze at Epcot, and then we said, let's fly too close to the sun. Let's go to the Magic Kingdom. We take a boat over. First thing we did is we all awkwardly stood on one side of the dude piloting the boat behind the screen, and we all agreed we were just going to stare at him until he glanced over, and then we were going to wave in a hilarious way. Dude very clearly figured out that was what we were going to do and refused to stare over, and it just got funnier and funnier for both of us until finally he looked over and we cheered, and then he honked the horn, and we're like, this is the best day ever. And so we come out all jolly, and they're all like, we have a situation 987 over here, a bunch of very jolly people need to be guided to not be a problem. And so we got jollied into all of the best rides. We came back and then we realized as the monorail pulls in to Epcot that, only us experienced old hands know that they cut off alcohol sales at 9:00 for the big fireworks display. And we all know where we want to be is over in England. And we all know that Justin and I are looking out for number ones. And so that thing ends. We bolt full on running a 5K and arrive at 8:45 p.m. at England. And we're like, can we help you? Like, man, we got a big group of people coming. I need 3 Bass and I need 3 Guinness right here. Like, okay. And they're all showing up when? You're like, don't care. Now I have 6 beers. And then we sat down and enjoyed the fireworks show. It was freaking amazing.
The moment that really capped it off is Brian does that. And then I think the bartender kind of knew what was going on. And I was just like, can I have the same? And she's like, fuck it. She starts pouring out. And so Brian and I, everybody who didn't run comes up, and Brian and I, like 2 misers, are just like, we have one little table next to the pub in England, and it's just filled with beers. We have like 12 beers to ourselves. It was amazing.
We're like, was there a greedy Smurf? If there was, that was us.
That was us. But you want to know what? Now we're end the showy Smurf.
Oh my God. Yeah, we all enjoyed a beverage.
Great segue.
Bonnie's already setting up the next Zoom happy hour. All this virtual stuff, I don't mind it. I know it's
Look
novel
at
to a lot of folks.
You were so crabby about it a few weeks ago, and now you're all about it.
Well, no, I mean, I don't mind. I would like to think that you and I were pioneers 12 years ago when we realized that you could get the vast majority of the amazing experience of hanging out with your friends through a Skype session, and now that the ducking is fixed, now that we have this magical device that allows us to chat like we're in the same room at the same time, I'm okay with, I don't want to say I'm okay with where we are. The terrible position we're in. Wow, it's a terrible thing.
Wait, why did this become about COVID? I was just saying that you've warmed up to Zoom calls.
Yeah, no, I have, but also,
That's all I was saying.
COVID is our new smoke signal. I'm telling you, it's our new smoke bomb.
Are-
Like, sorry, things got awkward. COVID.
Yeah.
That's certainly actually. There's a lot of sponsors and emails. Oh my God, that is the best email response to anyone. Just everyone. Hey, I wrote you 5 times, and you're like, so sorry, man. Crazy times, COVID. What was your question? Against can be no defense. It's amazing. All right, here we'll go ahead and peace out here. Look, we love you guys. Thank you to everybody who hangs out with us all the time. You are the best people on the planet, and we like hanging out with you. Take care.
Hello, baby, you called, I can't hear a thing. I have got no service in the club, you say.